Hey crew, it's Pitt and I'm back with some more Esoterica. Today we are diving back into the Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum. We are reading aloud and discussing as we go along the various points brought to light by the text. It is not the format for everyone, but people do find value in it, so you are more than welcome to tag along as we continue our exploration. Before we begin, however, if you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, or if at any point in time I lose you in terminology, there will be several playlists linked in the corner above, in the box down below, along with the original source material, the link for my book where I teach you to do magic and live responsibly, and the links to get in contact with the channel directly so that you can get a better understanding of who I am and why I say the things that I do. In addition to that, if you find value in these videos, I ask that you do all of the wonderful things down below. Give me a like, a share, a follow, throw me a comment, whether you agree or disagree with anything that is stated. Put it in the box down below, and if it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. In addition, if you really find value, hit me with that super thanks. Consider joining for a membership or picking up a copy of the book. With that being said, we are going to dive in and continue our exploration of the Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum with part 2. I forgot the guy's name. Let's see if it tells us. John Destin. Right, so this is his dream. We ended on 21, which was a discussion on why original sin is a ridiculous concept. If that is confusing to you, fall back either to the Bible study or to the last video. Picking up at 22. The said children uprose in a fury of woeful rage and went by one ascent unto their mother that was called Mercury. Now, bear in mind that Mercury is the cognitive ability. It is the soul. It is the part that makes the decisions for the 5D navigation device. There is sometimes a misunderstanding, a confusion that it might be associated with the spirit or that it is Mercurius, and those are not correct understandings. Requiring her by great advisement before her goddess being everyone present. Before her goddesses being everyone present. Now that is very interesting because we are very much in the time period of you get to die if you do not follow the one true God who is spread by the sword, Christianity. And so references to goddesses is definitely going to be outside of the normally accepted things, and it is interesting to find here. To tell them truly and in no part to feign, why their nature was corrupt and shent, that caused them evermore to weep and complain. To whom the mother, full bright of face and hue, gave this answer, remembered in Scripture. First, when I was wedded anew, I conceived by process of true nature, a child of seed that was most clean and pure, undefiled, most orient, fair and bright, of all the planets chief of injure, which now inhabiteth giveth forth so clear a light, whose complexion is most temperate in heat and cold and in humidity, in earth also that there is no debate, nor no repugnance by no quality, nor one occasion of none infirmity, that among them there may be none discord, so well proportioned every each in his degree, each hour and space they be of so true accord, whose nature is so imperial that fire so burning doth him no distress, his royal kind is so celestial of corruption, he taketh no sickness, fire, water, air, nor earth with his dryings, neither of them may alter his complexion, he fixeth spirits through his high noblesse, saveth infected bodies from their corruption. His heavenly health death may not assail. He dreadeth not venom, nor needeth no trickle. Wind, wind, tempest. Wind, tempest me neither. Weather against him may prevail. Wind, tempest, nay weather, against him may prevail. So high in heaven is his tabernacle. In earth he worketh many a miracle. He cureth lepers and fetcheth home fugitive. And to gouty eyne giveth a clear spectacle. Them to go lame were all their life. He is my son, and I his mother dear, by me conceived truly in marriage. And touching your birth, the sickness doth appear, of menstruous blood brought forth in tender age. Your leprosy as showed in body and in visage, to make your whole medicine is no other. Drink nor portion to your advantage, but the pure blood of him that is your dear brother. Do not drink blood. That is one of the laws from the Bible that actually makes sense. There are all kinds of pathologies that are contained within bloods that may not be contained within the meat that you consume. And so if you are eating blood, you are doing it wrong, right? There are many tribes and many cultures across the planet that do so, but they are rather stagnant. And that is probably an outflow of that particular thing. You should not consume blood. Now, let's talk about this real quick, right? Well, when I cut my steak, this red juice comes out. That is not blood. That is a protein that can be mistaken for blood, but it is not blood. So whenever you cut your meat, you're not actually eating blood, right? The red stuff that comes out of the meat is not blood. You are not eating blood when you are eating that. It is a derivative, kind of, but it is mostly just a protein that is inside of the meat to help it to be able to oxygenate. And so it is actually a healthy thing to eat, as opposed to actually eating the blood, which is most definitely not. Don't eat blood. 28. A good shepherd must die for his sheep, without grudging to speak in words plain. And semblable take hereof good keep. Your brother must die, and you be born again. Must you die for your sheep? Right? If you are a shepherd, and you've got a sheep, a flock of 100 sheep, right? And one of those sheep is being attacked by an animal. Okay, you should defend that animal. Absolutely. Try to run off the thing, right? But that doesn't mean that you must die, right? As a matter of fact, it defeats the entire purpose if you die instead of the sheep. I understand you want to keep your sheep. Everybody wants to keep their sheep. Nobody wants to lose the money. But it is not worth your life to keep the sheep. Right? That is a completely fallacious understanding, right? That was never the goal of being the shepherd. It was not to die in place of the sheep. That was not it, right? It was to be able to run off the predators. You have tools to do so. They carried staves, slings, bows, guns. These things were so that you can get rid of the predator, not to stand in the place of the victim. Right? That is one of those things that Christianity most certainly gets wrong. A good shepherd must die for his sheep, without grudging to speak in words plain. And semblance take hereof good keep. Your brother must die, and you be born again. Now, your old self must die. That is true. Your brother, well, there was some problems with that in Genesis. Though he be old, be hereof well certain, to youth again he must be renewed, and suffer passion, or else all were vain. Then rising again, right, fresh, and well hued. Okay. Old Æson was made young by Medea, with her drinks and with her potions. So must your brother of pure volunta die, and be young through his operation, and that through subtle nature's confections, by whole death plainly to express, ye shall be purged from all infections, and your foul leprosy changed to cleanliness. Now, there is a process by which I talk quite often, where you are going through and you are equilibrating the balance between the virtues and the vices, right? That is the 8-step process repeated 3 times for 24 steps. That is going through and putting to death the things that are vice, and then going through and putting to death the things that are virtue, because overextending into either one of those is equally bad. Right? Overextending charity leaves you destitute. Overextending love leaves it not returned. Overextending sacred or chastity ends with you being lonely and destitute. Right? There's a lot of problems with overextending the vices, the virtues, and so you should balance those out. through the operation, part of it is you will feel younger, right? I can attest to that. I look younger than I did when I started this channel. You can go back and look, not from this though, right? This definitely shows, right, the gray. But my facial features, the skin, like you can't really tell, but my skin's in great shape these days. I'm doing really well, right? Physically, my body is firming up. I'm getting into a much more youthful disposition than I was 3 years ago. And so there is a natural outflow from the process of balancing your virtues and vices that will lead to a fresher countenance. It will lead to more energetic disposition. You will be more energetic. You will be more explosive, right? Not explosive like your temper's lost, but explosive like you want to actually do things. That is the natural outflow from the balancing procedures, right? There is physical activity is involved in this. That is part of it, right? You do build up stamina and things like that. This process is being talked about here, but not as plainly as I would like for me to be able to stop and talk about it, right? You will not, I want to overemphasize this because of this first part right here, right? This old Eson was made young by Medea with her drinks and her potions. That is not going to happen to you. There is no physical alchemy that you can do that is going to make you live forever. It is not going to happen. And if medicine gets something that symbolates that, right, has the resemblance of, you should stay away from it. That is not the goal of incarnation, to remain incarnated. Right? Extend your life, live a healthy one. I just talked about how the effects are stacking, right? Diet, exercise, meditation, personal reflection, all of these things will lead to a more healthy, more productive, longer life that you have. Sometimes you can take things that will assist, right? I'm not telling you to quit taking your blood pressure medicine. I'm telling you to get to the point where you no longer need it, right? I used to take 5 pills a day, right? 3 of them were for blood pressure and cholesterol. I do not take those anymore. I don't have any problems with blood pressure, any problems with my heart, any problems with my lungs, any problems with my cholesterol. I have fixed my diet and exercise. I no longer have to take the pharmaceuticals that were once prescribed to me because of the actions that I am taking in my actual life. There is no physical cure for dying. It will not happen. Do not even seek it. Live your best, most full, healthiest life here. That is the goal, right? But part of that is learning how to balance your virtues and vices. If you are overextending into either one of those, you will not have balance in your life, and therefore you will break apart a little bit faster. Doesn't matter which side you are leaning towards. If you are towards the virtues or the vices, either way it will lead to your destruction. All right. Also, this right here, right, this has led to me healing myself in 4 ways, right? I've healed myself in my throat. The fact that I can talk to you right now is a testimony to that. I've healed myself in the shoulder. The fact that I can lift it over my head is a testimony to that. I've healed myself in my back and my knee. The fact that I ran almost the full 2 miles this morning, I beat my record again today, is a testament to that, right? But as far as I am aware, right, there is no guarantee to any of these things. I do believe that it is intrinsically linked to the processes that I put into place that I have been healed in these 4 ways. But I cannot emphatically state that as empirical evidence. It is an N equals 1 at best. This is my testimony and my testimony alone. I have been healed. As far as I am aware, there is nobody alive that has been healed from leprosy because of this. There is nobody alive that has been cured from diabetes, although that one might be possible, right? That is not to say that it is not a possibility. I'm just saying that I do not have any direct experience with it. I have healed myself from physical elements, so I do not rule it out. I just do not have the backup to say it unequivocally. With the said words, the king began to upbraid the tale adverting that she had told, How might a man by nature thus be, he said, be born again, namely, when he is old? Then he said his mother by reason manifold, but if the gospel thus doth mean in water and spirit be renovate hot and cold, that he shall never plainly come into heaven. What? Then said his mother, right, Mercury, the mind, the soul, by reason manifold, the soul is the thinking agent, but if the gospel thus doth mean, in water and spirit be renovate hot and cold. Renovate means to be made new, right? That he shall never plainly come into heaven. Here's where the contradiction is, right? Because there is the quaternary, right? We'll talk about it. There is you as earth, the physical corporeal anchor of things. There is you as the deciding agent, which is the ego that resides inside of here, the soul, the differentiated piece of the divine that is making the decisions for the 5D navigation device. You have water, which is represented by this black circle, and you have fire, which is represented by the white circle. That is the quaternary, right? The earth is the temple. The air is Mercury. It is the deciding agent. You have water here, and you have fire. Water is an expression of spirit just as much as fire is, but it is the expression of the feminine side, the stasis side, the stay this way, and the fire is the masculine change agent, the aspiring, the become something new. There is a balance to be stricken between these, and the way that you strike the balance between this is through these checkpoints that are described right here in these 8 individual steps, right? 7 balls of color, 1 large one that is external. In water and spirit. Well, water is spirit, but there is a misattribution sometimes, right? Water and fire, that would be a good one. And water and fire be renovate hot and cold. Well, that makes sense. And so this is spirit as the stand-in for fire, but it actually represents Mercurius, which is both the fire and the water, the masculine and the feminine. And you have to bring those together. You have to bring those into accordance. It is different for every single person, right? But there are checkpoints, right? Love and wrath, chastity and lust and chastity, gluttony and moderation, right? Each one of these is a checkpoint. There is a balancing point between, right? Love and wrath, that's going to be kindness. Lust and chastity is going to be sacred union. Gluttony and moderation is going to be temperance. Gluttony and denial is going to be moderation. These are halfway points that you are to bring together into the median, right? You are going to take the hot, which is the masculine side of things. That is going to be on the virtue side because you can add the virtues. Right? Yeah. And then you take the cold, which is on the feminine side, and you equilibrate them. You bring them into balance through yourself. Now, I have a process by which you go up with 8, you come down with 8, and you bring together with 8. The bringing together with 8 is the melding point. That is the finding the balance point. The other ones are acknowledging the problems, right? I overreact in this way, in this particular point, behind this thing. Whenever you do the 3rd step, you are trying to figure out how to act in kindness as opposed to wrath or love. And yes, you can overextend into love. All of that, right? All of that is to go into this water and spirit is probably talking about the same thing that I do in a different way, but it is not necessarily so. This could be something completely different. But it does, while it is not as plainly as I would like it to be, it does absolutely hit upon the same things. All right. The king was tristy and heavy of cheer, upon his knees meekly kneeled down, prayed his father in full low manner to translate the chalice of his passion. But, for he thought the redemption of his brethren might not be fulfilled without his death, nor their salvation, for them to suffer, he was right-willed. Wait. I feel like I missed something in this, but I don't remember what it was, so we're just going to have to move on. And for to accomplish his purpose in a sentence by clear example, whoso looketh right, heavy things from their circumference must up ascend and after be made light. Heavy things would be the vices, going up, right? And things light, ready to the flight, must descend to the center down by entertaining of nature's might, and they be moved by means of revolution. Now this is clearly, right? This is at least clearly enough to make the assumption that we are talking about the same thing. This is the heavy things, that would be the vices. They are coming up to be burnt away in the light. You have the light things, that would be the virtues. They're being brought down to be cooled off by the water. Finding the equilibrium point, the balance must ascend to the center down. I am in complete agreement with that. And even the revolution, right? The revolution, what does that mean? Moving it around, right? Taking it in a circle. That is a good explanation, just as well as the pillar is, right? I use a pillar, right? Other people can use circles, right? You can understand how that could be exactly the same thing. So, as Jupiter in a cloud of gold changed himself by transformation, and descended from his heavenly hold like a golden dew unto Danae down, and she conceived, as is made mention, by influence of his power divine, right so shall Phobos, right sovereign of renown, to be conceived of his golden reign decline. Right now, the fourth part of the process, we talked about the moving up of the energies. That is called negredo in the terms of alchemy. The bringing down, that is called albedo, the whitening, right? Negredo is the darkening, albedo is the whitening, and then you bring them together, that is the rubido. And then there is a fourth step, right? The rubido is the creation of the green stone, the philosopher's stone. I've got a book on that. And then you have the point of projection. Once you have brought it together and created the philosopher's stone, then you can project. When you get into the projection part, that is called the citrinalis. That part is the yellowing. The yellowing is turning the green into gold. So as Jupiter, in a cloud of gold, changed himself by transformation and descended from his heavenly hold like a golden dew unto Danae down. And she conceived, as is made mention, by influence of his power divine. Right so shall Phobos, right sovereign of renown, to be conceived of his golden reign decline. That to me sounds like citrination. And to comfort his brethren that were full dull, the sun hath chosen without war or strife the bright moon, when she was at the full, to be his mother first, and after his wedded wife. I do not like the incestuous. We have talked about it quite extensively. There is absolutely no reason, no need whatsoever to refer to these things as incest. There's simply not. There is no need whatsoever to refer to these things with incestuous language. I will point it out every single time that it comes up because it is disgusting. Right? It plays no part. Right? That is the anthropomorphication in the worst way. Well, not the worst way. There is the whole God was a man thing. But the second worst way possible. You are anthropomorphizing things that absolutely should not be done so. The light and the dark are existent. They do exist. They are not brother and sister. They are not mother and son, and they sure as hell ain't mother and husband. Fucking wild. In time of Ver, the season vegetative, Ver would be green, that is going to be spring. In Aries, again spring, when Titan doth appear. Titan, you say. Titan is a moon of Jupiter, right? In the 1500s, could they see the moon of Jupiter? Did they? I'm not positive. I think it was the 1600s whenever we got the telescope. I could be wrong. It could be the 1400s. And if we did have the telescope, then this makes sense. If we didn't, I don't think we can see the moon of Jupiter with the naked eye, right? So obviously it had to have been after the telescope. Inspired by grace with the spirit of life, this marriage hallowed at midday sphere. And right, I don't have the problem with the The marriage terminology, I have a problem with it being his mother that he married, right? That is not right when fucking Freud says it. It is not right in any of the myths. It is not right in any of the explanations. It is never going to be a good thing to fuck your mother. Alright. And at this feast, where the gods all, Saturn from blackness was turned to white, you don't say, and Jupiter let his mantle fall, full pale and meager of great delight, clothed in lilies that every manner white, of heaven and earth, and gods of the sea rejoiced in heart and were full glad in light, to be present at this great solemnity. Mars forgot there his sturdy black hardiness, cast off his habergeon fret with old rust. Venus forsook her mineral redness, took gold for green, and again also for lust. Because she had in Phobos such a trust that he should this feast hold of most noblesse, of brotherly pity, needs as he must, give her a mantle of oriental brightness. You're going to brighten up the feminine powers with gold and green, you say. Very interesting. After this wedding, herefore devised, of fair Phobos and fresh Lucine, light and moon, right? Lucine is going to be the, there is the story of the werewolf, right? That is lupine, Lupine. That is a cross-contamination from the lucine, if I am correct. And again, I am willing to be corrected on some of this terminology stuff. But I'm pretty sure that this is the sun and the moon, right? Phobos and Lucine is going to represent the light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine, the wedding between the two. Philosophers have prudently practiced a closet around by their wise doctrine, clear as crystal of glass, a little shrine, with heavenly dew stuffed that dungeon, kept night and day with glorious maidens 9, to keep the queen in her conception. Alright, now this, I'm not going to have the proper appellation for, right? For me, there are 8 steps, right? If this said night and day with glorious maidens 8, then it would be probably what I'm talking about, the 8 steps. This may be steps, and they just have an extra one that I don't, right? These are overlaid with the virtues and vices. I didn't just take them, however, right? We did a whole study on the 7 facets of God as part of the Bible playlist, where we discovered that is where we really discovered the dual nature of the virtue vice matrix, right? The balancing and all of that really came from that 7 facets of God. That is lust and love and wrath, lust and chastity, gluttony and denial. It is charity and greed. It is pride and humility. It is sloth and diligence. It is faith and despair. That is the 7 steps, right? Then there is the 8th step, which is between self and source. That is going to be the masculine and feminine. Self being feminine, source being masculine. Simply because masculine is the change agent, the will to change comes from the divine, therefore it is divine and it is masculine. Those are the 8 steps that I have, right? It is the virtue vice matrix. It may very well be that there is another matrix that I am unaware of that would actually bring it up to 9, but I don't have any real reason to believe that there is. Every single attribute that has been attributed otherwise than the 7 designations of these coins, 8 counting self at source, falls as a subset, right? Some people are like, well, being honest is a virtue. Well, that is a subset of humility, right? If you are being honest, you are not putting yourself above the truth, and therefore it is a subset of the pride humility matrix. Telling a lie, same thing. opposite side. That is you giving into your pride. It's going to make me look bad. It's going to have a bad outcome. Therefore, I, in my pride, am going to lie. That is the same for pretty much every other that I have found, right? I am willing to adjust. I am willing to adjust either up or down. If it comes out that one of these 7 actually fits underneath the other ones, then it will be 6. But again, I don't really feel like it's going to do that. The underlying harmonics is a thing. There is a whole video devoted to that. And so, in that understanding, this key kind of works, right? As far as the clear crystal and glass and the little shrine, that all makes sense to me as well. This 9 is really the only point of contention in this entire stanza that makes no sense to me. Even keeping the queen in her conception kind of makes sense, right? The queen is the beginning point, the stasis. And so it kind of makes sense, even though it's not really a full good explanation thereof. Religiously, they kept their silence till that from heaven they're a royal light. That is the golden flower. We have a video on that as well. And there, with all in open audience, we heard a voice almost at midnight, among the virgins most amiable of sight, that said unto them, to save that was forlorn, I must again, through my imperial might, be of my mother new, conceived and born. So, here's the thing, right? I heard a voice almost at midnight. Right? This part right here, religiously they kept their silence till that from heaven, their royal light, and there with all in open audience was heard a voice. That all works, right? This can be the throne room experience. This can be the citronellation, right? The yellowing part of the process. That all fits with this. This next part has no point here. There is no reason to say among the virgins most amiable of sight. That is lustful. At a minimum, right? The Islamic understanding that they're going to get virgins when they die, that is so based in lust that it is ridiculous. And how you can think that God is going to reward you for being lustful to the point of killing other people is fucking wild to me, right? This right here, this is appealing to the flesh in a way that is not a necessary thing. What are you going to do? You're going to have sex with all of these virgins that are pretty? Is that what you're going to do in this process? No. Now, there is the virtues, and that can be attributed to the virginity, but that's stretching an allegory farther than I'm willing to do, and that's saying something. Among the virgins most amiable of sight, that said unto them, to save that was forlorn, I must again through my imperial might be of my mother new conceived and born. I must pass by water and fire, the burnt abide, and there not from decline, to save my brethren I have so great desire, with new light their darkness to illumine. But for I dread that venomous serpentine which ever advanceth with his violence, my tender youth to hurt and to envenom, but in your keeping do you your diligence. Again, we have a reference to the water and fire being part of the cleansing process. The burnt abide and from there not decline. That means that you have purified it and therefore it is no longer going to degrade. To save my brethren, I have a great desire, I feel that. With new light, their darkness to illume. Well, you're not really exposing new light now, are you? Now, you are. If you have the key, if you know the allegories, in which case it's not going to be new light that is being exposed to people. But he was doing the best he could with the resources that he had. But for I dread that venomous serpentine, that's where you're starting to lose me. Whichever advanceth this violence, right, that would be a tendency towards something, maybe. All right. The king thus entered in his bed royal, the queen conceived under a sun bright. Under her feet a mount like crystal, which had devoured her son anon right. dead of desire and in the maiden's sight, lost all the color of his fresh face. Thus was he dead, the maiden's feeble of might, despaired, slept in the same place. The serpent bolt shed out of his poison, the queen and maidens for fear took them to flight, 7 times ascending up and down. Boy, that sounds familiar. Within a vault, now dark, now clear of light. And again, familiar, right? This part right here, I get this part. The serpent, right now this is making sense. There is the Kundalini experience. Now, I don't necessarily agree that that experience is complete. I know, stepping on toes, but there are 2 powers to be desired here, right? There's the masculine and the feminine. To my understanding, the Kundalini experience only really deals with one side of it. But, as an explanation, it'll help. It is identified, right? The Kundalini experience is identified as the serpent at the base that waits to unfold. Part of the unfolding process is a meandering up through the spine. I believe that that is a direct correlation to the process that is outlined here. If you look at this one at the bottom, it rotates in a clockwise manner. This one rotates counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise, counterclockwise. The overall aura rotates in a counterclockwise pattern, and all of that is functional. Right? If you run a serpentine belt between pulleys, there is an opposite effect, right? This one runs this way, the belt pushes and it runs the other way. There are 2 belts running in concordance around all of these auras, right? They are driving the turning. One side of that is the feminine side, one side is the masculine side. It goes both up and down, resembling most a caduceus, which is both snakes on the stick. Not just one. If it's just one, it's not correct. And so, 7 times up and down. I wonder if there would be 7 steps up and down. And, right, in a vault, now dark, now clear of light. Your body is the vault. Now dark, now clear of light. Their generation was so strong of might. After death now passeth purgatory. Our resurrection, as any sun bright, things that were lost to bring to his glory. There is no purgatory. We did Dante's Inferno. That was not a literal revelation, but rather him imagining things. Fall back and check it out for yourself. The queen took her full possession, the soul reviving of the dead king. But of old hatred the toxicate poison was by the servant cast into their hindering. The prince was buried, but of his rising the brethren were glad the truth was seen. When they were washed by his natural cleansing, and their old lepery by miracle was made clean. The full moon half shadowed the sun. Would that be a balance? To put away the burning of his light, black shadowed first the skies were so done. The raven's bill began, who looketh right, blacker than jet or bugle to sight. But little and little by ordinary appearance the temperate fire with his cherishing might turned all to white, but with no violence. Again, I have explained this process how many times in this video. Same thing. Time to the queen approached of childing, the child of nature was ready to fly. Passage was there none to his outgoing, he spread his wings and found no liberty. Of 9 virgins he devoured 3, the other 6 most excellent and fair, fearful for dread in their greatest beauty, spread their feathers and flew forth in the air. The child colored first black and after white, having no heat in very existence, but by cherishing of the sun bright of serene fire there was no violence, save that men say which have no experience, he drank such plenty of water of the well, that his 6 sisters made no resistance, but would have devoured. Can you tell? Sometimes black, sometimes was he red. Now like ashes, now citrine of color, now of saffron hue, now sanguine was his head, now white as a lily he showed him in his bower. The moon gave nourishment to him in his labor, and with all of their forces did their business, to clothe him fresher than any flower with a mantle of everlasting witness. And that is going to bring us to the end of this study. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a somewhat difficult series of topics. I understand. I hold some unconventional beliefs, and I do have a tendency to step on toes when I relay those. It is not intentional, but it is not something that I apologize for. This, to me, is just a reaffirming of what we have already discovered in this study repeatedly, right? There's only been one part of this that did not bring what I consider to be direct confirmation of my process, right? I discovered this completely independent of any other sources. This was all personal reflection and work. Yes, there are some, right? I had a vague understanding of chakras. I use that terminology, but what I talk about was revealed to me, right? It wasn't just I read about it and then I talk, right? It is I read about it, I put it into practice, and it was revealed to me, true or not, or, right, the very concept comes after I receive the information. That has happened a lot. When we did the science of logic, it gave me the terminology to put into words, things that I hadn't had the terminology before, but I already had the concept, right? We talk about that in the science of logic, so I'm not going to hammer it here. This is, in my estimation, a working confirmation, right? I'm really at the point where we're about to pivot on the channel, right? We're going to finish the theatrum. We're a little bit over halfway done. There's not a whole lot left. We're going to start digging into my works, and then we're probably going to continue in that vein. We're going to continue working more towards definitionally trying to get out good information as opposed to trying to find it. This particular reference book right here, the Theatrum, has proved to be probably the best one that we've found so far, which isn't saying too much, but it is saying something, right? There's good information in here, but it is couched in language that is hard to decipher if you don't have the keys. I am here to give keys out, right? At some point, we have to pivot away from studying things that are not effective and get into the things that are, and that's about where we are, right? This has all been groundwork. It is great for me to get the confirmation from these, but at this point, it is really an exercise in confirmation bias, and I'm not really here for that, right? It is great that 400, 500, 600 years ago, depending on the particular author, that the understanding was there. If not fully explained, it was there. This understanding from this book is most definitely contained in the one that we are reading. And so, if you like what I'm doing over here, let me know down below. Give me a like, a share, a follow. Throw me a comment. Whether you agree or disagree with anything that is stated, put it in the box down below. And if it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. If you really like what I'm doing, hit me with that super thanks. Consider joining for a membership or picking up a copy of the book, or even reaching out through any of the links provided down below. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pittstake. Peace.